we will see topic called as the assets, right? Asset. So now what do you mean by the asset? So asset is acts or it's similar like as a variable, right? Assets are similar like a variable. In asset we can store values, right? Assets are similar like a variable. In asset we can store values. Type of value we can store, or what kind of values we can store in the asset, right? So we call as the type of assets, right? So we can store integer value, right? We can store string value, right? We can store boolean value, right? And we can store credential, right? So that is the, you can say, basic definition of the assets and type of assets. So assets, so what is the basic definition of the assets? So it's similar like of a variable. Here we can store the values, some values in the assets, right? So where exactly we can create the asset, where exactly we can access the assets, right? So on the orchestrator, okay, now this is my orchestrator, right? So when we download the UiPath Studio, so we have downloaded that software from the orchestrator. Now what do you mean by the orchestrator? It's an, right? So for high level, right, it's again a different, a big and a different topic. So as a high level, orchestrator, what is the orchestrator, you know? So orchestrator is a UiPath component, right? It's a it's like as a server, right? It's a server where we can deployed, right, deployed the UiPath code. Just consider in this way. Now for example, if I want to download any app, if I want to use any app, so from where I can download and from where I can install that app? So I can use that like Play Store. I can download that app from the Play Store, right? So some mobile developer, what they do, so they developed the software in their own mobile application languages, and they publish their app on a centralized location. So once they deployed that you can say application or that app on the centralized location, so end user, that means the users, they can easily access that centralized location or the centralized you can say that Play Store, and they can easily download their app to use. So simple as this. For here also in the UiPath also, orchestrator is a centralized location where we can deploy the bot. If I want to create some automation, so in UiPath Studio I need to create the code, but where we can deploy that or where we can install that? So on the orchestrator we deploy the bots, right? Now again, if any end user wants to access that bot, so from where they can download that? Again from the orchestrator. So orchestrator, it's a very big topic, so we will discuss on that in later on with the orchestrator topic. But orchestrator is a centralized location where we deploy the robots or deploy the bots, right? So asset also so here we can create the asset. So where we can create the asset? On the orchestrator we can create the asset, right? So this is the cloud.uipath.com, as this is the community version. So we have this cloud.uipath.com, right? So here I'll just click on this, you can say orchestrator, right? So there are different component of the orchestrator. We have a lot of things to in this orchestrator, so that we will see later on, right? So see, if you see here, we have assets. we have one different session in this orchestrator is a asset. So I'll simply click on this asset, and here if you see we have add asset button, right? We have add asset. You can say they have provided add asset button here, right? Now this orchestrator, as I said, this is a centralized location. Okay, so that means if for example in my organization I am using this orchestrator, so if I develop 10 bots, or if I'll develop 100 bots, or you can say 100 robots, so that 100 robots I need to deployed on this centralized location, on this orchestrator, right? So this orchestrator is used, or you can say this orchestrator is a centralized location where we can deploy the bot. So that is the main, you can say, difference between, you can say, normal. For example, if I have 10 processes, or if I have 10 you can say bots, 10 different bots I have created, right? And for all that bots, suppose I have a common value, right? For example, a particular value, anything like variable 1 is equal to 10, right? And this value if I want to use throughout my this 10 processes or 10 bots, right? So usually in normal, how we can do that? So usually in all the bots I can create one variable, and wherever required I'll use that variable in each and every process, right? But instead of that, here if I create one variable as a global variable here as a asset is a global variable, right? So here I'll just mention that it's an global variable. All the processes, right? I'll mention like all the processes, deployed processes, right? All the deployed processes or bots are used that variable, right? Variable, simple. Now so it's an, you can say, it's in layman language, it's a global variable, right? So each and every process, if I'll deploy that process here, right, so that all processes are used these variables, right? For an example, now for example, if you see right now I don't have any process with me, right? I'll just show you. Now if you see, for example, this is the two different bots, or you can say robots, right? This is a different robot and this is a different robot, or you can say this is a different process and this is a different process, right? That means this is the one different automation and this is a different automation, like that. For example, I have 10 processes with me, and each and every process is nothing but, if I'll develop some code here, right, that means I have created one process or I have created one bot, right? And once we deployed that bot, it's like this process or it's like this process, right? Now if for example in this case, if I have two processes and if I want to use a common variable in these two variables, so instead of putting that value inside this processes code, what I'll do, I'll simply create one asset here, right? And easily that asset I can use inside these processes. So for these two processes, or if I have the 10 processes, these 10 processes, these assets acts as a sorry, global variable for all these 10 processes, right? So we will see one by one how we can create that and how we will access that. Okay. Sorry, right? So as I say, this is the assets. If you see, there are one button called as the add asset. So with help of this add asset button, if you see create a new asset, so I'll simply click on this create a new asset, and here if you see, here if I want to create some assets. Now what is the asset? As I said, this is a simple, it's kind of a variable, right? So simple, here I'll use, for example, variable, I'll use var, right? So I want to create asset, so I'll simply use now asset underscore demo, right? Asset underscore demo, and I'll put today's date 20 you can say 7. Now as I said, what types of assets we have? As I said, text is nothing but, you can say, string value, alphanumerical value, if I want to create a asset, or if I want to create a variable as a data type string, so in this assets we can consider that string data type as a text alphanumerical value. This is my asset name, this is my asset type, and inside this text like string, inside this double quote, I'll store the value for this asset. So which value I'll store here? Anything. I can store anything here, right? So for as of now I'll use hi team, how are you? Simple. So this this text I have stored inside this string, right? So similar way we have, you can say, boolean value, right? So I can choose either true either false, that also we will see. Here also we have integer value. Inside this integer now I cannot store string value here. If I am trying to put double quotes, it can't access, or they will not, they are not accepting that character, right? So here I can only put some integer value, some, you can say, digits. I cannot give some decibel number as well. If I am trying, they are not accessing that number, right? So here I can only put some integer value, right? And as I said, boolean, true, false, integer value, credential. Now this is the credential where we use the credential if I want to log in something, right? So credential means, for example, this is a BP traveler, you can say, website. So to access this, they require some credentials, username and password, right? So this username and password is very crucial things, right? This is the you can say users, or you can say this is the end user's username and password. So it's very crucial, or it's need to be hide somewhere. Nobody can access this username password easily. So usually in the real projects we can store this username password on the orchestrator, so nobody can easily see that, you can say, username password, right? So as usual I can store the username and password here as well. So that also we will see, right? So first what I'll do, so text, I'll create one asset here, right? And inside this text, as I'll mention, like, hi team, how are you? Okay, so how are you, right? Double quotes, completed. If you want to provide any description, you can provide that as well, but it's not required, or it's not a mandatory. But in future reference purpose, if I want to provide some description, so I'll simply use demo purpose. That's it, right? This is not important, like label and all these things. These four fields are only important. Okay, now we have these assets with me, right? Now I have create, right? Simply I'll just use this create, right? Now I have created one asset on my orchestrator. In short, or in layman language, I have created one variable on my orchestrator, or on, you can say, on a centralized location, right? And I have stored the value as well, right? Now I want to access this variable. I want to access this variable's value in my project. I have some values on orchestrator, and with help of that orchestrator values I need to perform some you can something like mathematical operations or whatever, right? I need that values which are already available on the orchestrator, right? So how we can access that value, right? So in the Uipath, so we have properties called as the, you just mention, or you can just put assets in the activity panel. You will see there are four you can say activities, like get asset, set asset, get credential, set credential. So four activities. Okay, so first activity, get asset. Get asset, simple, as I said, get means getting the value. To get the value, from the orchestrator, get asset activity is used. Right, so simply what I'll do, I'll simply use get asset activity, right? Get asset activity. Now if you see orchestrator folder path, now here if you just click on this orchestrator folder path, it will automatically available for me. This is latest version, so it will available for me. So now, as I said, now if you see here, we have two things, right? My workflow and shared. This is the different, we can create multiple folders as well, but I have created this asset inside my workflow folder, right? So here also that folder I need to choose. So I just choose this is my credential, right? This milind@gmail.com workspace, that means this is my workspace, so I have chosen that, right? Notice the asset name, right? So here this asset name I require asset underscore demo 27. So here also, right? So I choose that asset name, asset demo 27, get asset activity, right? So with help of this activity I am accessing that specific value from a specific folder, right? Now I want to hold that value, or I want to store that value in some variable. As we know, each and every UiPath activity has two things: one is the input and one is the output, right? So here we have two inputs, and we have provided two inputs value as first this orchestrator folder path, and this is a, you can say, asset name. As a output here, if I'll just go inside this property, if you see, output is form of the, you can say, one value. So what I'll do, that means I need to create some variables to store that value, right? So here what I'll do, I'll delete all this existing values, right? So this is the blank. So here I simply create control K, simple as usual, or as regular how we can create the variable. Here also we can create that variable. So var out, that means var out variable. And what is the value of this string? Whenever just remember, whenever we create control K and variables, automatically they have created the variable type as the correspondence of that activity. Okay, so var out, right? So I have created the variable as well. Now if I want to see what variable or what value is available on the specific orchestrator's asset, so now I can easily use that variable like var out. Okay, so just whenever we create any sequence, just put some headings over there, right? For example, this is sequence main. So to understand the scope of the, and this is sequence, you can say sub, right? Now I have created the variable, right, and I'm not able to access here. So now I'm inside the sequence main. Now var out, right? So I'll use var out, right? It's, I'm able to access it, var out, right? And if now if I'll execute this, okay, so if you see, whichever value is available on that specific asset, I'll get that asset. Hi team, how are you? Right, simple. So with help of the get asset activity, I can access the value which is already available on the orchestrator's assets, right? Now same way, sometimes what happen, orchestrator will handle by any other team, right? So as a developer or as a development team, we don't have the access directly to that orchestrator, right? So I cannot access directly and cannot see in that value which is available on the orchestrator. Now if I want to access that value, so I'll use get asset activity. Now if I want to update the existing value from the orchestrator, then we have set asset activity, right? Same, get asset, set asset. Now I have the value with me, right? Simply now what I'll do, now I am setting the value, right? Setting means updating, right? Set asset, right? So set asset to update the existing value from the orchestrator. Orchestrator. If I want to update the existing assets value, then I can use set asset. Now get asset, that is fine. Now I'll simply disable this activity, right? I don't require it as of now, right? Now in this asset, now if you see again, in set asset activity we have three inputs, we don't have any output because I'm setting the direct value, I'm updating the existing value, so I don't require any output variable, right? So that's what, again, orchestrator folder name. So this is my orchestrator folder name, right? What is my asset name? You can update any. So I'll update this asset underscore demo 27, which I have created now, right? Now value, which value I need to update? So directly I can pass that value. So two ways, right? I can create any variable and I'll just pass that variable, or I can directly pass the hard coded value. For example, if I pass this value directly here, that is also fine. Or for example, now I have one variable with me, right, which I have created. So I'll just take one assign activity, and inside this assign activity, for example, I have var out value, whichever variable I have. So I'll simply use the value here like hi team, and now good evening, or you can say good evening. Now I simply pass this var out here as well, whichever variable. Now as of in my case, I have created as var out, right? So this var out. So usually in real projects we can't use hard coded value, so instead of that we are usually use variables, right? So I'll use one variable here. I have just passed that value inside this variable, and I'll use this variable here. Otherwise I can put the hard coded value as well, that is also fine, right? Now var out, right? I don't require this value as well, right, because I'm not storing anything, I'm updating the existing value, right? So hi team, good evening, right? I'll just execute this. So it will execute successfully. So if I want to see the existing, see this is my existing message, hi team, how are you? Just refresh it. If you see hi team, good evening, that means I am updating the existing value. Right, so this is the string value. So quickly we'll see the other types as well, boolean, integer, right? So I'll create one more variable here, for example asset underscore int, and here I'll quickly go integer value, right? Boolean also we will see, but quickly we will go integer, and I'll use 67 asset underscore int, right? I'll use asset. Now here again I'll just enable it, right? Same way, right? Get asset and set asset. So we'll see first get asset, right? So instead of this, now I have a different asset value, if you see. So int asset int, right? Now what I need to do, now in this case whenever, or you can say whichever variable I'll create, we need to set that variable value in form of the integer, right? So I'll use control K, var int, right? Var int. And if I'll again, if you see, it automatically created. As I said, whenever we create the control K, so control K is the best practice, right? So int 2, and I'll just increase this scope sub sequence main, right? Now if I want to access, simple, I'll use message box, right? Message box, and simply use asset int, or you can say sorry, var int, right? So same way you can update the existing value as well, right? Get asset, set asset, simple. But whichever data type we have already existed, so the same data type we need to pass over there, otherwise it will give a error, right? So get asset, set asset, right? This is the integer. Quickly we will see how this third data type like float, or you can say boolean, looks like, right? Now asset underscore bool for boolean. Now I have created, this is a false, right? I am not choosing a value as a true, I have chosen false. So asset bool, now I'll just create that asset underscore bool, right? Now here what I'll do, here I'll use asset underscore bool, right? Right, to hold that value, again what I'll do, I'll create control K, var bool. So variable var bool, so variable, right? Asset for asset, var bool. And if you see here, var bool for boolean, right? So boolean, right? Sequence main, right? And here I'll use var bool, okay? Var bool, right? And if I'll execute this, I'll got the false value. Right, so same way you can update that as well. Right, so it's simple, get asset, set asset. Right, the fourth option, this is little bit interesting one. Okay, so now credentials, right? So credentials, so if I'll create the credentials, so credentials means username and password. If I want to go inside any website, the initial step which we need to provide is like we need to provide some username and password, which is little bit credential is critical, right? Any username password is very critical, or it's a security purpose, it's very critical actually, right? So how we can use, basically that all username and password, we cannot store that username password inside the code, because code can access anyone, everybody can easily access that code. So anyone can easily you can say see your username and password. So best practice is like we'll store that username password on the orchestrator, because orchestrator easily we don't have the access on the orchestrator, right? So that's what username password is little bit critical or little bit secured, so that's what we need to store that username password on the orchestrator side, right? Now here what I'll do, I'll use asset underscore cred, asset underscore cred for credential, and I'll choose type is equal to credential, right? And I'll use username as admin and the same password is equal to admin, because here we'll take this example. Simple, if I want to put admin username and password, then now what I am doing, now I am storing this admin value on the orchestrator, and now I'll use the same you can say variables, or I'll use the same values to put inside the BP Traveler you can say website, right? So at asset underscore credential admin, I'll simply click on the credit, or you can say create, right? Now we'll take the same example. Now I'll delete all this thing which I don't required. Simple. So now get assets, instead of this get asset, now to work with or to deal with credential, we have two different activities. One is get credential, second is the set credential. Same like get asset, set asset, it acts as a same you can say way. Now we need get credential, right? So that's what I have used, get credential activity. Now I used the same orchestrator folder path, so I have chosen this orchestrator folder path here. Now asset name, right? Asset name, which asset name is available for me, so I have this asset underscore credential. Now on the orchestrator I have two values, one is for username and one is for password. So to hold that two value, also in the Uipath Studio we have two variables needs to be created, right? So for that, first value simply I'll use control K where username, and here again I need to create one more variable control K where password. So I have created two values, where username and where password. So again, if I'll just increase this scope, sequence main, okay, here also I just increase the scope. Now if you see here, we have one more data type or one more variable type called secure string. Why secure string? Because password, it's very password is very crucial, right? Or it's very, we need to secure that password, right? So that's what, to hold that no one can easily access that password, that's what their data type is called secure string, right? Now we'll see how the secure string is work, right? Now if I'll use message box, okay, message box, right? So and if I'll use where, okay, where username, so I can easily see what is the my user's name value, but I cannot see the password directly, right? We will see that. See, I can see my username, right? But I cannot see the password, because what is my variable type or data type? That is a secure string. Because of that secure string, I cannot see the password directly here, where password. If I'll execute this, so I cannot see that password directly here, okay? See, so it will give me like system.security.secure string, right? So to decrypt that means now again we need to convert that secure string into text, and I need to put that in a, you can say, I need to use, basically I need to use that password. To do that, so we have one activity, right? If you see type secure text, which activity I need to use? Type secure string. So I'll now we'll simply use this. Now we'll go to this website and I'll put this username password, right? So simply I'll use, now to username, right, we have one activity called as the type into activity is used. Type into, it's very simple, right? Type into means if I want to type something on the website or any application, not on the website, if I want to type something through my Uipath Studio to website, right? So here I'll simply use type into, right? I'll just give the username, right? And same way, now indicate on the screen, so I need to indicate that which screen or where exactly I want to write. So that's why I have indicated that, and I have just used this password, right? So now when this program will get executes, so my cursor will go here, and for the second activity my program cursor will go here. And the second thing, to click on this type into or login, I'll simply use click activity, or you can say simple click, right? Click. So I'll just use click here, simple. Okay, now I need to provide that. Now I need to provide the username, I need to provide the password, and I need to simple click on that. So where exactly I have stored the username? So where, okay, where username I have used to pass that value specifically. And here now if I'll store the simple, if I want to access that value, so I'll get the values output as a secure string format. Now with help of the type secure string, now here I'll pass that secure string variable. So I'll pass where password, right? Now simple, here I'll simply use indicate on screen, and simply I'll use this login button, right? Now I'll let's see how this works. Okay, now I'll just see, this is a simple program for me. Now get credential activity is used to get the specific values from the orchestrator. Now if any end user or if I want to see if anyone can see this program, so they are not able to find out the username and password because this is hide, I am taking that value from the orchestrator. So that's the main, you can say, purpose when we if I'm storing anything on the orchestrator, so no one can easily access that value. That is the main purpose of the whole exercise. Okay, now if I'll just run this program, okay, just see, huh? Now if I'll execute this one, see, this button will appear for me. Now if you see admin, and again for the second admin, now login, now my bot will click here. Understood? So in this way, here with help of the get asset property, or you can say with help of the get credential activity, I am able to access the orchestrator values. Simple. So get asset, get credential, set asset, set credential. Now simple. Now what I need to do? Now again, if I want to set some specific values, right? So I'll use assets, set credential. Okay, so here now I'll simply use C, this credential name. If I want to provide the credential name, so this is my asset credential. And now again, if I want to provide some username here, I want to updating that, right? So I'll use this one like that. And if I want to, because I'm setting the credential value, right? So here also now I want to update something, so I can update that value as well, right? So same way, right? Get asset, set asset, get credential, set credentials. In this way we can use these assets. Assets is nothing but it acts as a global variable for all the processes, right? All the processes means, now this is my one process, right? If I'll publish this, right, this consider as my first process. If I create the any other automation, if I create the code for the any other automation, that is also a different process. Again, if I create the second, third automation, that is considered as a third, you can say, automation for me, right? And all this process or all this, you can say, if I want to use a common value throughout my whole processes, then it's very useful concepts for this asset, right? Otherwise what happened, right? So each and every time same activity I am performing for all these processes. So instead of that, if I am using a you can say a common variable, or you can say a globalized variable that I can easily access throughout my projects, or you can say throughout my you can say processes. So that is the assets, right?